As an artist, you kind of want to stand out and have a name, and name says a lot about who we are. And yeah, in brief, Rayos Magos came from a time when I was living in Mexico and just reconnecting to my roots. I grew up here in San Jose, California, just on the other side of the freeway over there, on the west side of town. And yeah, I was really enamored by the day of Los Reyes Magos, or the Three Wise Men in Spanish. And my name being Ray, I just changed Reyes, which means kings, to Rayos, which is rays. And Magos is magic or magician, magician's rays, hence the magic hands. A lot of the way that I see art or creation or creativity is like magic. So I think oftentimes when I'm making stuff, I'm kind of in a silo. I'm by myself, I'm listening to music, or I'm kind of trying to decompress and de-stress just from the day-to-day struggles and challenges that we all face. And I think, yeah, it's magic to me, the ability to create something from nothing. And maybe you all have had similar experiences, whether it's through art, dance, singing, laughter, having fun with friends, even language is creative. And I think there's something magical about that. I just pulled a back muscle today, so it's wild. You wouldn't think that you could get hurt from doing art, but like I do it so intensely. It's like an ultra marathon. I've been pulling like all-nighters recently. But I think going back to your question again, what was it?
How
Sorry.
did you start that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of these larger images are images of me as a kid. So I think it started there. Creativity kind of runs in both sides of my family. Folks that were also artists. Maybe not renowned artists or like well-known. Some were, some weren't. But again, I think creativity was always something that was in my home and encouraged as a kid. My parents, who are here today, would always buy me, coloring books and different kind of arts materials. And like that was the thing that I was always most excited about. Like we didn't really have video games up until junior high, which is probably for the better because, those things can be addictive, and hence why I have video games there. But yeah, I started at a young age. Again, I think it was, I was a very introverted kid. Unlike I am now, I seem to talk a lot, not usually with mics. I feel real uncomfortable with these situations, but nonetheless, I think art always just helped me kind of really like dive in deep and kind of explore what was happening inside, despite the things that were happening in my external world. So I think that was also really something that helped me just communicate on a very symbolic, simplistic level. And it was funny because I could, go with wait for my dad at his work, or be waiting somewhere, and just like they would just give me stacks of paper, and I would just be drawing for hours. And even at that time, I didn't like the attention. People would be like, "Oh, could you draw me something?" Or, "Oh, like you're gonna be a famous artist," and I always would kind of shun it away. Like I was like, "Oh, like that's too much pressure." And here we are, fast forward full circle in the future. And I'm talking in front of you all today. But yeah, I think it's a big part of my story and my journey. Just art has kind of led me also to working in mental health. So that's actually what my background's in psychology. I didn't study art, but I've been doing art full time the past 4 years. And I did mental health counseling for about 10 years, working with family, youth, and adults. So again, I think a lot of that experience too shapes my perspective and how I see the world, how I relate to people, how I listen, observe, watch. And I'm very fascinated, I guess, in people's stories or narratives. And I think that that's also what I'm trying to capture here in this work. I think on a basic level, I think just the word seen, right? I think we all want to be seen and heard, like whatever our story is, whatever our background is. I think that's like the most humbling experience I can say. It's like, you know, uh, I feel like a master of nothing. Like I feel like I'm just, really good at like locking myself in a room and like spending a lot of time doing things that I enjoy or I like to process. But I think all of us have things that also motivate us and drive us. And I I think that also makes you all special as well. I think that, yeah, I think if anything, my hopes, I guess, when I make art, when I do this, is that people kind of recognize the curiosity and creativity and power of their own story and identity, because I'm no different than you. I just, slap some color on a wall and like, we call it art. So, I think that for me is like a humbling thing. And I think I've worked in, with so many people in so many different ways. And I think that to me, again, shows me that everybody has a story to tell and that everybody's creative. And I also like to teach art and run workshops. I'm gonna plug a workshop that's happening this Saturday with me and Pilar back here. We're doing a workshop at Macla making alebrijes. So yeah, that's another thing I like to do because yeah, I think art is for everybody, creativity is for everybody. Oftentimes I think with students, I feel like with younger students, it's a lot easier for them to dive into their creativity. Whereas I feel like for adults, it's like can be kind of challenging because you kind of have to dust the cobwebs off. It's been a while since I drew, a picture or wrote a poem or, sang a song or whatever. So I think oftentimes when people are like, oh, like I can't draw, like in a workshop that I'm teaching, I give them like 5 minutes, like I try to like help them or support them in whatever they're doing. But I kid you not, within like 5 minutes, everybody's drawing, everybody's doing something. The person that said they couldn't draw a line is now drawing like geometric shapes and doing 3D and what have you. But so again, I think that's why I make art, is to inspire, to give us hope in sometimes a chaotic, heavy world. But yeah. I think I'll start with the materials first. It's a little easier of a conversation. Yeah, so again, I think I got into working with a lot of different materials because growing up I had limited materials to work with. But I think that's the beauty of creativity or art making in general, is like, what can I make with, sticks or cardboard or, the cave drawings that we all have heard of. So I think it started there, just kind of exploring different materials. I actually started out as more of like a drawer, a painter. That's kind of how I labeled myself. And I think that I took a class at SF State in undergrad, a mixed media class. And that kind of just really showed me how to expand the idea of painting and using other materials. I think one of the challenges of that class, they asked us to go to like a dollar store and see what you can make from like materials that cost 99 cents. I don't even think the dollar store is $1 anymore. So that's talks a little bit about when I went to college last. But yeah, there's something about texture I'm really fascinated about. I think color, image, composition, I think all of that kind of hits home for me. And I think for a lot of us, I think we're visual people. And so even when engaging with others and talking to them or seeing, I know we're inundated every day with advertisements and, a lot of these kind of things. So I think aesthetically, I always try to find like the balance between like what feels good to me or what looks complete or finished, and I feel like maybe how a sculptor must feel. You're always trying to sort of find the diamond in the rough. You're kind of trying to get to a certain place where you feel like a piece is complete. Oftentimes, I don't know when that is. There's definitely like earlier when I started sort of calling myself an artist or started doing art, like I would definitely like botch like paintings or prints or things. Like I would go too far. Like it was just like, like I don't like the way this looks or feels. And I think the more and more you practice, right, anything, if you all have ever heard the theory of like 10,000 hours, right? It takes 10,000 hours, equivalent of 10 years, to become a master of something, right? And so again, I think that's true for everybody. You could become a master of whatever you do if you do it for 10,000 hours or more, or 10 years or more. So again, I've been doing this a long time, as you can tell. it's very methodical, right? The process, like oftentimes it starts in my sketchbook, like sketching and drawing. I still have that practice. I'm currently working on a new body of work, which sounds kind of crazy, like seeing all this, but like my studio now is just full of paintings, right? Because I think most people here know me mainly as a printmaker. So there's like lino cuts in the back, but that's sort of what I became known for doing here in San Jose, like the past 10 years that I've been back. Has been for the lino cut. So I think oftentimes when I make art, it's like, ooh, like I wanna show myself up. Like, I don't know, I wanna challenge myself to a competition to see if I could do this, if I can make this thing. And oftentimes, you know, it could be materials like wood, it could be materials like fabric, it could be a shoebox that was in my trash and I just was really attracted to the color orange and I thought it would make that blue pop, right? Or working with these different fabrics and materials that sort of give you like an aesthetic of like, you know, older times, vintage times, like, so that's also what I was going for with this. I could go on and on about materials, and as you can see, like again, I have ADHD. I can diagnose myself because I'm a licensed therapist. But you know, again, because the way in which my mind works and the way I think, and you know, I'm always juggling things. I was just painting this morning at the studio. I still have paint on my hands. But you know, again, I like working with different things because I don't know, it's satisfying, and it's like I said, it's kind of a way to. I don't know, it's creative problem solving. You know, I think it helps me just like, okay, how can I make this work? I don't know. But yeah, going back to your original question was about how do I tie in symbols to identity and personal history, more or less? Okay.
Because I was looking.
Yeah, I think so. If you kind of like, you know, if we rewound like back to like when I was doing art and kind of just learning techniques and experimenting, I was painting a lot of different things and the subject matter was kind of all over the place. And then I think I made this work about, I think it was like, it's 3 years already. It's like 2022. I was part of a group show at Makla down in South First Street, downtown San Jose. And the topic or the theme was about belonging. And so whenever I think of that, I think of home. When I think of home, I think of my family. You know, I grew up here in San Jose with a tight-knit family, very small. And so, yeah, I really wanted to explore. I think before that time, my paternal grandmother passed away some years prior, and I think I had come across these photos of her, kind of like, you know, I don't know the stories behind it because she passed, but it's just kind of cool, like, to see these photos of her in different moments in her life, at different ages, and I think it was very inspiring because I also was really inspired by her life and what she did. And I think that I wanted to capture that by paying her, you know, homage. And the way in which to do that was to kind of celebrate her in this way, in kind of like a scroll type of representation. So yeah, I think that's also why I chose the colors, the fabric, went to the fabric store. And again, this was like a first time I ever did something like this. So as you can see in the video, perfect timing. I think this whole project was about a month. I had barely learned how to sew. A friend taught me how to sew real basically. So this is, and I think it's wintertime. That's why I have a beanie on and a sweater. But yeah, like I literally like was in my studio for a month just working. And interestingly enough, because I had never worked with fabric before, and in each of these fabrics was so different. The first one I worked with was the burlap. And because my grandma also like grew up on a ranch and worked in agriculture, you know, I thought that like doing it on burlap is like a perfect representation of that, a perfect homage to her. But the interesting thing I didn't know about is that burlap is treated with formaldehyde. So within like, I don't know, the first few sessions of sewing into that bad boy, my hand started to dry up and itch. And I was like, what the hell is this? Like, so I looked it up and it was like, oh wow, like the burlap has like, you know, formaldehyde. And I heard it's like, so again, to for agriculture, for crops to not like, potatoes to go bad or things of that sort. So it's interesting to learn through the process of actually weaving and working. And I think each time that like I went back to the studio and I was struggling with this, this one took about 2 weeks because I really like filled in that whole space. So that was like a 2-week, mission there. But that's why also I started to wear the gloves because I was like, this is, my hands are drying up. This is weird. But you learn things by working with the materials. And each time I wanted to kind of give up, like, you're doing too much. I kind of thought about my grandma and like her struggle and her life journey and all of our struggles and life journeys. And it's like, if this is like the most I'm struggling, like making art, well, like, why not? Like, let's do it. Like, she struggled like to get us where we are as a family and as did my ancestors. So, this is me kind of like honoring that, paying it with my physical labor, my physical work. So yeah, I got really into sewing. I don't know why. As you can see, I started embroidering because I didn't want to take paintings back to my apartment. It was also an easy thing to do while sitting and watching TV on the couch. But this series I made this past year, I had a solo show in Mexico City. So I went out there for a month, had a show in the Zocalo in downtown Mexico City. And I wanted to make these pieces as a complement to these older ones. And again, they're images of me as a kid doing various things. And, as artists, we're always looking for references. And so oftentimes, like a lot of the other work I have out are references inspired by Mesoamerican culture, a lot of the art and the codices like we talked about. So I started, after this series, I wanted to dive into my own family history, my own archive. So I started pulling out photos like before I went to this trip earlier in the year to Mexico to have the show. And so I found these photos. I also painted my family members there in the center. My mom, my dad, my brother, and myself, and my grandparents are at the center. So again, like I started to dive into my own personal archive of photos, and at my parents' house, they have a basement full of just photos that I haven't seen in years. Even those like cheesy, tacky ones with like the fake backgrounds. You guys remember those? Yeah, it's all the rage back then in the 80s and 90s. Look it up. But yeah, I think somebody asked me recently, how do you develop your artist voice? And I was like, oh, it's a really good question. Like, how do you tell that to somebody that's, starting as an artist? And I think for me, like, I'm still finding that voice. And I think the closer and closer I get to it, the more I am just kind of speaking out loud about it through the visuals, through, being here today, talking to you all. But I think it's, again, just an exploration of materials of, it's just practice, really, right? Like, like I said, I spend a lot of time alone. I spend a lot of time working and painting and doing things and trying to share it with people in this way. Because I think, when I'm there by myself doing it, it's like, I don't know, it's just an impulse. It's a thing that kind of just gets me through the day. But the thing that really connects me to the art making is actually just being here with you all and connecting on a human level, on a personable level, and having conversations, about the work, about your life, about just, what inspires you. And I think that that's kind of why I do art. The advice I would say is there is no wrong or right path in life. I think growing up, that was always the thing, was like, okay, like step one, like you go to school, you go to college. After college, you graduate, you get a good job. Then you get, somewhere between all that, like you romantically fall in love with somebody, you get married, you have kids, the white picket fence, cars, all that, right? I never fit that mold, or I never wanted that for myself. So I think when I talk to students in general or people in general, it's like, like do whatever makes sense to you, right? Like follow your path, because that path isn't going to be very clear cut. It's going to be windy and I think of the game of Shoots and Ladders. I don't know if you ever played that. You know, again, I'm outdating myself here. It's a game where basically you roll a dice, you go up the ladder. If you land on the slide, you go back down again, right? I feel like that's kind of life, and that's how, you know, things, you could plan, you know, for a rainy day, you could plan your life out. Doesn't always work accordingly. So for students, I think just be open to trusting that gut instinct and following what makes sense for you. If that's studying art and doing art, awesome, do it to the fullest. If you decide to change majors, because that's what I did, actually, like, didn't know what I wanted to do. Like, I knew I wanted to do something art adjacent. Somehow ended up doing journalism. As an introverted person, that was the worst decision I ever made, because you have to talk to people, strangers, like, and that's what happened. I had to choose a major. I was at De Anza College, transferred, went to SF State. First semester, they gave me a neighborhood, a beat in West Portal in San Francisco. I had to talk to people that were taking the train, going to work. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Like, get away from me, you weirdo. So I changed majors and I studied psychology. And again, my background is in expressive arts therapy. So somehow I came back to the arts full circle and was always doing art, like, even on the side. And so I think that would also be my advice, is like, if you were ever interested in dance, creativity, drawing, painting, singing, music, like, why not take it up again? Like, you know, even if it's just for fun, for your own mental health, for your own well-being, I think it doesn't hurt, so you should do it. And then I think there was another question, but again, I can ramble. Yeah. So we grew up just down the street from the cannery, which is now apartments, I think, over there. And so, yeah, it's just like an image that, like, connects me with home and growing up in the neighborhood. You know, a lot of our friends' parents worked in those canneries. And so, yeah, like, I think it's, a lot of these pieces happen to just talk about nostalgia. Like, obviously, as a kid, I didn't smoke Marlboro cigarettes, right? Like, still have never, no, I'm just kidding. But so again, like, it's more like these brands that I grew up around, right? That are impressionable on us as youth. And I think it's kind of interesting, because this whole series actually is what my current series is about, of paintings. And I'm having a solo show next month, October 2nd in San Francisco. I'm plugging that. So it's a Thursday. But yeah, like, that whole series actually is like kind of replications of this. And it's all done in painting. And I'm still working on it right now. But yeah, the idea is just, again, about nostalgia, and yeah, things that I grew up around. Corn, you know, in Mexican and Mesoamerican culture, or Latin America, it was the food source of the crop that, like, helped the culture to grow, the community and empires to expand. So there's a lot of mythology around, you know, the sort of creation of people that's associated with corn and corn gods and that whole thing. So yeah, a lot of just different symbology in my work, because I think symbols for all of us, like, really are very straightforward and direct, and I guess that's the kind of communication I like in art, is just, like, very, like, you know, I guess that's why we use GPS too, go left, go right, right? Like, these kind of things, seeing signs, it really helps us. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so again, like, I grew up to brown parents, they're right behind you. And so that was something that was always instilled, is just like, is, you know, again, like, being proud of who you are and where you came from. And I think growing up, like, I didn't know what that meant. Like, when you're a kid, you don't really know those kind of direct messages or indirect messages that are happening around you. And so that was just something that was there, because I think, you know, in my grandparents' time, it wasn't cool to be a brown person, right? It was, like, actually very dangerous to be a brown person, or to express parts of your culture, right? And so I think that me sort of being, what's the word? Not protected, but, like, sheltered, right, from having to experience those kind of things. Yeah, you know, that also demonstrates my privilege, you know, being born in a different generation, different time, where now it's kind of cool to be a brown person, or like, or we're because there's so many of us, we're like speaking about it. So I think that's also a lot of the narrative in the work I'm trying to show is like, yeah, it is cool to be a brown person, and like we've been here for a long period of time, way before colonizers. So I'm going to show you that, and yeah, it's just a reminder to keep on going. I think that you never really realize or recognize sort of the power you have with your voice, and I think art has always been that for me. And so if I could sort of be that same symbol of brown power, but in a new sort of updated form for the younger generations, then why not, right? And so I think that that's also part of like my role in society and as an artist. And another thing to sort of briefly touch on is that a lot of the research I do on like Mesoamerica and like the codices and symbolism and of things of that sort, I also realized that like artists were a crucial part of like those cultures, right? They're the ones that documented the history and manuscripts for how to live life and how to be in connection with nature and the world. So I think that I consider myself like a contemporary version of that, like they're called tlacuilos, right? Like the scribes. So I think that that's also something that I really try to express in my work. So thank you. Yeah. I think mess it up. Like, I don't know, like, with the canvas, it's blank. Like that used to always stop me from creating too when I was a student. Again, I took a year's worth of art classes, but have been doing art my whole life, like I said. I think, again, for me, like just slapping paint on or like just diving in. Like, I don't know, like I think I've had just less regrets, but yeah, like certain things like the fabric stuff, that was a whole learning curve. But again, it's such a physical labor of love that, like I said, today I pulled the back muscle from sitting like the past few months just painting a lot. So I'm like, oh my God, like what won't this guy do? Or what won't give out? But again, I think, yeah, just again, like I said, experimenting. A lot of my process starts in my sketchbooks. Like I kid you not, I have like tons of sketchbooks and I don't know what I'm gonna do with them because I'm gonna be moving at the end of the year. Yeah, so. Yeah, I think for the longest time, because I didn't study art and I didn't know how to apply to an art show or build a resume or have an art show, like 10 years ago, I was like in the dark. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Fortunately, it's like I had a community of people that were also artists in San Francisco and open gallery and things like this. But I think the first thing is like, make a body of work, whether that's like 3 paintings or images to 10, document it, take really good photos of it, or even photos on your iPhone, create a Instagram or a web page, and go to your local galleries like Works Gallery, where Nizotes works. But yeah, I think in doing that, right, connecting and making those connections in your community with the local galleries, with local artists. There's a lot of free workshops too, like on, how to apply to art calls or, again, like have a resume for art. Like I didn't have that because I worked in mental health for a long time. So now it's like I have a lot of, art shows and I'll put this one on there too. So it's a lot, but yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, soy muy necio. Yeah, I'm very stubborn. I'm a very stubborn person, hence why I pulled the back muscle today, right? I'm gonna keep emphasizing the back muscle, but thank you. I think that's a big part of like also behind the scenes, what you don't see is like I constantly apply to things. All of this stuff you see, it's like, if I ever make money off of art, it just reinvest into the project in like me, I have my own art studio downtown, so I'm paying for that monthly, which isn't cheap. I have my apartment where I live. And so again, like a lot of what I do, it's because I'm dedicated to it. And yeah, I, for whatever reason, have gotten over rejection. It still hurts a little bit, but I think the more and more you do it, like the better you get at, I don't know, it's like I grew up playing sports, so it's like the my brother too. And I think that's the thing is like the more shots you take, the more, chance you have of it going in or, you getting a show. And I got the show because you had a show here about a year ago. So thank you. Yeah.
What does the cigarettes represent?
Yeah, good question. So interesting. Like as a natural element, tobacco's from the earth, so it was used in a ritualistic way, right? So that's partly why it's there on the bottom. And my grandma used to smoke Marlboros, so and she raised us and would like.
So is that kind of things that were prominent at various ages?
Yeah, different things. Again, I talked a little bit about that, just like branding and how it was around. Like, I don't personally smoke, but again, I know that it could also be used for people in a ritualistic way, right? To take a break, to take time away from whatever it is that they're doing, to have a smoke or whatever, have a drink or I'm a coffee enthusiast advocate, but yeah. Folgers just reminds me of my grandma. So it's again a little bit of nostalgia, kind of double meaning in some of the things. Yeah. Yeah, I think so because I'm always like processing. Like I think that's why the tie-in with psychology and art is like goes hand in hand. It's because I think as artists we're observers naturally. We like to document things and yeah, I think uh, you know, for me, art has always been therapeutic. Like I said, I've been using it since I was a kid, and if anything, it's kept me out of trouble when I could have went a different route, different path, And so I think that in learning, through my own journey, and then also like learning techniques or like studying like expressive arts therapy and how to work with people in that way. Uh, it just kind of reaffirms what I already knew from the start that it's like therapeutic and healing, and I think that's why I'm an advocate in a sort of I don't like to use this word, not I wouldn't want to say preacher or anyways I'm an enthusiast for creativity and art as a healing form for everybody. So yeah, good question. Ooh, okay. That is a good one. It's hard to say about like favorite artists. There's a few that I really like. I'd say one that kind of has always inspired me, and I guess my approach to art making is Picasso because he also could paint very realistic, like portraits of people, but then he could also do very like just free-formed kind of things. And he worked in painting, sculpture, muralism, different things like that. I think I'm also very inspired by like the Mexican muralists. Recently, when I was in Mexico City, they had just opened up maybe a few months prior. It used to be like the education department. It was like a government building, amazing, like 3-story, building with like 2 plazas on the inside, and it's all murals by Diego Rivera that I've never seen before. And I don't know if there's documentation of it. And I got to see another thing he did in the park. Really cool stuff. So I think Diego Rivera and the Mexican muralists are also really inspiring. And there's a lot of like contemporary Chicano artists like coming out of LA right now that are doing some really cool stuff that I like. But yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because like when I wake up in the morning, one of the things that I do is like have coffee and listen to the news. My partner hates when I do that. She's like, why do you want to listen to this? It's like gonna like put a damper on the day, which is kind of true. It's like, but I don't know. Like I'm into chisme and like ooh, like what's happening in the world. Like it's like eating my popcorn. But I don't know. It's interesting. This past week, because I've been so fixated, like one, they're like doing construction on my apartment, so we have to get out really early. So I've only been really hearing the news in passing. And so it's kind of interesting. I feel a little bit lighter, like not listening to it, but you still can't escape it because, we live in a bubble in society. And so, you hear like what's happening or, I spend a lot of time, on social media, watching stuff or sharing stuff, or what are other people doing. So I think like everything in healthy doses, right? Like whatever that means for you in terms of listening to the news. I guess it's like, how do we take that information and then do something with that energy or with that, right? Like, and maybe for me, it's doing art and like having these conversations with people, because I feel like I can have more impact in my local community than I can, nationally. Like I'm not at that level yet, maybe one day, but, so I think that just having these conversations here is kind of more fruitful and useful for us changing or doing something about it,